Well, good morning and welcome to City Talk. It's a weekly program we produce here at the City of Waco. It's a podcast, it's a television program. It's an opportunity for us to share important things that are happening around the city and help you have a safe and healthy life. I'm Larry Holsey, Director of Municipal Information and Public Information for the city, and I'll be your host for this program. Today I'd like to welcome somebody special that we have every year at this time for sure, Barry Barrington, who is the City of Waco Staff Safety Coordinator. Good morning, Barry. Thank you, first of all, for being here, because I know today you were kind of filling in. We had you planned for next week, but we bumped you up a little bit, and you're moving your office to a different part of the building that you're in, and you're taking off on vacation finally next week.
Right.
And you're coming in and doing this at the last minute. We really appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Larry.
Well, you've got some great messages that we always want to share with you because, first of all, right here in the middle of the heat of summer, we're getting ready this next week as this airs, having some record temperatures again in the triple digits, as they call it on the weather channels and things. And so it's one of those things that we want to talk about and share the information you tell our employees about how to survive the heat, because the heat can be a killer.
Yes. You know, it's that time of year. Summer heat kind of took a late start this year, but it's finally here. And our employees and our citizens, everybody is feeling it. Like you said, today they're talking 104 heat index. And I think the key that we need to really focus on as we go through this today is to talk about the prevention. Mm-hmm. To get ahead of that before something bad really does happen.
Well, that's what it's all about. And that's as our safety coordinator for all of our 1,500 plus employees, who some of us are blessed to have indoor job, but we do get outside sometimes, and there's opportunities for us to get in the heat. And if we're not used to it, that can cause more stress than if you're more climatized for it. Maybe like a lot of our workers that do work outside, they're used to working all the time, and so their body's adjusted. And I'm sure we'll talk about that too at some stage.
Yes, that's a very key point, is to talk about being ready and acclimating yourself to the heat. Mm-hmm. For folks that are the weekend warriors with their yard and things like that, just being prepared before you do that and getting out early, not starting at noon when it's already close to 100 degrees.
Yeah. Well, I know you always talk about what we do as employees, but families are very important because, first of all, we consider ourselves a very close-knit family in the city organization, and the city management promotes a lot of things to help us feel, because the 8 or more hours that we all spend here at the city, we become family. We work together. We have a common tie together. But so our families are important here, but I know the information you stress is also for the families we have when we go home.
That's right. You know, when we do go home, a lot of folks think that you take off the safety hat. You take off that awareness, that I don't have to be safe. And really, for the most of us, actually, if an injury is going to happen, it's probably going to be away from work. And so we do need to be aware, when we're working outside, working in the yard, running that race, if you're into that, doing what you do away from work and just being prepared.
Absolutely. And I know one of the key things in the summer, and you would think you would not have to tell everybody this, is being hydrated and keeping hydrated and using liquids to make sure that you are cooled, because your body is an amazing machine, first of all, but we don't want to do things that will harm it from doing what it's supposed to do, is cool. And the proper hydration, and I need you to get into that, because there's a lot of drinks and things. People think that they're quenching their thirst and their need and things, and as we get into it, so talk
about hydration is the key. And it's not, I feel thirsty, I need to drink some water now. You have to think ahead and prepare the day before for what you're going to do tomorrow. And hydration is a huge part of that. It's not, all about electrolyte drinks or energy drinks. If you're going to do an electrolyte drink, at least alternate one water, one drink like that, between as you're hydrating, if that's what you want to do, to replace those electrolytes. Mm-hmm. Alcohol is definitely You know, we think we're outside, a cool adult beverage is going to be the thing to do. That's not when you're exerting yourself that you need to be doing that, because alcohol can actually create other problems when you're out in the heat.
It seems to me like alcohol almost absorbs the liquid that you would normally think and tends to dry you out, because we can all pour just regular rubbing alcohol, for example, on a table, and it's going to evaporate very quickly compared to water.
It'll dehydrate you in itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a problem.
How much liquid should we? Now, this is the part that always gets me down, because when you tell me this, I said, are you kidding me? Because I'm one of the worst about not drinking as much as I should, and I brought my drink just to make sure I am hydrated as much as I should be. But, you know, that's how much liquid should we, especially during the summer?
You know, they say at least 2 to 3 quarts of water every day. We have to drink.
Quarts.
2 to
Not
3
just
quarts.
glasses.
Yes. and when you're exerting yourself, at least a cup every 20 to 30 minutes, a cup of water. And you think, well, how do I have access to that? Well, here again, prevention. You have to plan for it. You have to have that water bottle when you're going running, or a pack. You know, some folks wear on their back a camel pack where they, have a straw. You have to have that water. You know, our bodies, I think it's 60% of our body is made up of water.
That's very critical. And back to the family part of it, because I know as we talk about the job part of it, back to the families, children are very important, and a lot of times they don't think as we would think they should, but they're children. We were once children, believe it or not, that we need coaching, we need help. We need to remind them when they're outside, when they're getting hot and things like that, because and we need to think of those little kids that are maybe in strollers and saying that we're the caregivers for.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, if they're in a stroller and you're taking a walk or whatever, pull that canopy over them, cover them up, make sure that they have the sunscreen on them. Not all kids wear a cap or have a lot of hair on their head, and the more mature crowd, some of us don't got it on their heads either.
That's right.
But I had to put some 100 on my head the other day on my bald spot. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
We have to protect them and help them, like you said, think for themselves. Think about that hot surface they're fixing to get on the playground, that we might not need to let them touch because they could skid down a slide and get burned.
Absolutely. Well, and we may talk about this later on, but I want to make sure we get it in now, because children heat-related deaths is a sad, sad situation. And that's because we as adults have to look out for and think ahead and do some of the things, and I know you're going to talk about preventive, and you got to think about keeping kids from getting into things that they should not get into that could lead to a tragedy.
I think it was since 98, stat we shared last year, and I checked this morning, it hasn't been updated, but since 98, over 800 lives have been lost. Children of being in a hot car. And 128 of those was our folks here in Texas, kids in Texas. One is one too many.
Yep.
And when we think about little ones, you have to lock up your car, especially when you're at home, because kids like to play in their car. They're curious, and you have to think about, if one goes missing at home, maybe check the car first, because maybe they got in there and they can't get out. And, of course, in a day like today, it could be a tragedy.
Absolutely. Well, the inside of a car can get to 130, 140 degrees, similar to our ovens that we cook with. And you can only think of the young child that's gotten in there for whatever reason and closed the door and can't figure out how to get out, and passes out, falls to the floor, then you don't know where they are. And we've had in Central Texas area, we've had heat-related deaths with children. That's just uncalled for. And I don't want to use the word irresponsible, but in a way we are. We are responsible because they're minors. They don't have the ability to think on their own and not legally responsible for themselves. So we have to take care of that and think ahead of the time, just as you said, locking the doors, keeping aware of where they are, and that type of thing.
And you know, you go to the mall or you go to the grocery store. If you saw, just ask yourself, if you saw a child in a car that's locked up, it's not running, what would you do? Mm-hmm. You know, we have that phrase from our former chief, Ryan Holt. He said, if you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. Report it. Get involved. Mm-hmm. You know, you may save that child's life by saying something. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we think, okay, we're talking children, but what about pets? Pets are important too. And if they're in a car that's locked up, you know, a lot of people think that if I crack the window a little bit, that's going to help. It really, statistics show it really doesn't help that much.
Yeah. Well, and that holds true to another lesson that you brought me up to mind for. The fact that if you see a child in a car by themselves, even if the car's running and the air conditioning's on, taking away the heat problem that we're talking about, that's illegal. A child of, I think it's under 12 or 14, I don't know what the age is. We need to report that because that's a danger. They could accidentally put the car in gear. They could do a lot of things. They should not be left alone. And as a parent and a grandparent, please don't do that because even though you're running into the convenience store or something maybe only going to be on 2 or 3 minutes, you can't do that. Take them with you or leave them at home. Plan ahead. Think about the safety and well-being of that child that you're blessed to have.
Think for them.
Absolutely.
That's
right.
Exactly right.
That's right. Great point to do. So, well, you know, I want to get into some of the technical things because I know the different levels of heat, you know, and I don't even know what they are, but you're going to teach me right now. But, you know, there's signs and symptoms. First of all, back to the drinking, thirst is the body telling you, I'm thirsty. I've got to have something.
Right.
And all the thirsty, go ahead and answer that question, but at the same time, talk about the difference between that and soda drinks that make us feel good, but how they don't really satisfy what our bodies needs.
You know, yes, thirst is, if you're thirsty, you're already past the point of needing to be hydrated. Mm-hmm. Your body has reached that point. You need to get something to drink. And if, you know, a lot of people think if they're working outside, I need energy. I want to get an energy drink or a soda or coffee. Those type of fluids are not going to give the body what it needs, the electrolytes that need to be replaced that we have sweat out. And so it's important to use water. And if you do use a true electrolyte drink, to alternate. And when we say electrolytes, we're talking about the kind, you know, I don't want to throw brands out or anything like that, but everyone knows the difference between an energy drink and, you know,
soda water.
A soda water.
Yeah.
So yes, that's an important factor when we're talking about prevention, being prepared to do what we're doing.
One other indicator, we talk about thirst as being one of them. Another one is basically urine. We all put it out. We say it, don't say it, or whatever if you want to, but it's an indicator.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Okay, urine is probably one of the best indicators beyond thirst that we need to get something to drink. And if your urine is of a light to clear color, you're most likely in good shape. Your body is well hydrated. But if you get into a darker soda, root beer, if you will, color urine, you probably need to drink a couple of bottles of water, get you a couple of glasses of water immediately because your body needs to be hydrated.
If you join us, we're visiting with Barry Barrington, who is our safety coordinator for the city of Waco. And he is the one who guides all of our employees, especially those out in the field and doing the hot work to provide the services that you as our citizens expect. But we want them to be taken care of, as well as take that safety information home for their families. And that's why we're sharing this with you, because we want you as our citizens to benefit from the training and the knowledge that he has, that he shares with our employees. All right, let's get into some of the technical stuff here, because there's a lot of differences in the levels and the identification of the various stages of danger when it comes to heat. I know you got heat stress, exhaustion, stroke, and all those different ones. Let's talk about heat stress. That's the first level. What is that?
Well, heat stress is, first off, not waiting until the body can't cool itself. You're going to get into heat stress. That's the onset of a heat illness. It's your body saying, hey, Larry, you need to do something. You need to stop. You need to rest, take a break, whatever. Limited air movement is around you. You've been exerting yourself. And, this can be, like I said, the onset of your body just kind of shaking you, saying, you need to do something before something really bad happens.
Yeah. And maybe a good example of that might be while you're out in the yard working. I was mowing the grass yesterday, in fact. And I have a front yard and a backyard. It takes me about 25 minutes to push the mower, which I do. Gives me the old energy. But I was getting ready to go back to the backyard and do that one, another 25-minute push job. I thought, no, I'm going to go in and cool down. And I did. And that's because I learned that from you. Learned to space myself. Come in, drank a big old glass of water, sat down, had the ceiling fans on, spinning, cooling me down real good. About an hour and a half later, I went out and mowed the backyard.
And you're listening to your body. You know that little tap on the shoulder or whatever, your inner voice, whatever you want to call it. But you're listening to yourself and knowing that something is going on. I need to sit down. I need to take a break. If we wait too long, though, let's say you went ahead and went to the backyard. You may have found yourself, into that heat exhaustion where the skin gets clammy. You begin to get weak, really weak, not just from the mowing, but upset stomach. These are symptoms that you need to pay attention to because you've reached that level of a heat-related illness.
And your mood actually changes, I think, doesn't it? Is it so if you're living with somebody, your wife, husband, or friends, or family, or whatever it is, if somebody notices, if you notice something different about somebody, say, hey, are you okay? Let's start asking. Let's start that process of taking care of one another, especially within our family. So, like you talked about, so exhaustion, which I felt yesterday, even after the first job, at my age especially. But anyway, when I got in, I was exhausted. I was just sat down and relaxed and took care of myself.
Yep.
And so that's the kind of thing we have to do. So watching for weakness and moisture, because heat exhaustion is the next level of concern that you need to think about.
That's right. And after that, of course, we're not paying attention. We're being stubborn or whatever. We're pushing on.
Superman.
You pull that. It's a big S on your chest. I've got to get this job complete. What you're doing, though, you're pushing yourself towards what could be a heat stroke. And that's when you reach a point where the body cannot, take care of itself. This is the most serious stage of heat-related illnesses. And mental confusion, you could lose consciousness. And this is a critical point. This is
when you call 911.
Yes,
because there's not a stage after this, so
No.
you can't necessarily take this one under control on your own because you've really passed all the other warning signs. You've waited too long. This is something I don't think we as individuals should worry about. And I can tell you one thing: our fire department, first of all, will tell you, please call us. Don't hesitate. They would much rather you be you calling them ahead of time and being able to have a very positive outcome rather than having to stress and worry about somebody potentially dying. And this is a death-related thing, heat stroke.
Yeah.
That's why they call it stroke. We've talked about strokes in our body otherwise, heart and all this kind of stuff. But heat-related stroke is very dangerous. Talk more specifically about that because it's really, it's the last ditch effort.
It's it.
Yeah.
That's the lines in the sand. And once you've reached this stage, or maybe even before in the second one, we have to remember that once your body has experienced a heat-related illness of that nature, of that level, you are more susceptible to that in future cases. So if you get sicky and you get tired and you're not paying attention and you allow it to go that far, the next time you mow that grass or work outside and get overheated, you're more susceptible to get to that point quicker.
That's part of the overall body conditioning. We can condition ourselves in a positive way to be better, be stronger, building muscles and things by conditioning ourselves. Our body will also condition itself to react to what you've just had before and think, oh, okay, this is what your norm is going to be. We all talk about the new norm of the COVID-19, but this is a norm that during the summer we need to look at and take consideration. But there's good news.
There is good news.
There is good news about this and heat illnesses and things like that. What's the good news about heat illness or heat prevented deaths? They are what?
Well,
they're preventable.
They are preventable. And we use that term a lot around here at the city. Was something preventable? Was the incident preventable? And with heat-related illnesses, they are 100% preventable. If we're looking out for ourselves, if we're paying attention to our bodies, as coworkers, are we looking out for each other to see if they're confused or their demeanor has changed? So that's important. Knowing our body limit, knowing what can I just mow the front and then I need to take a break and then go to the back. That is also important. Knowing what medications that you're taking and how they react or play, because I'm going to tell you right now, and this is a testimony of mine. I learned that I was taking a medication that did not play well with heat, and it almost got me. And you would think, oh, you're the safety guy, you think about all these things, but we need to pay attention to the medications that you're taking. If you don't know, ask your doc. Read up on it, Google it. Because it will tell you. And, the resolution was simple. Take it after you've done what you're going to do, rather than that morning.
Again, the body is an amazing machine. But if you're taking a medication to help supplement or do whatever is aiding you, just know that is something that your body is going to say, okay, now what am I supposed to do when I get into the heat or things like that? So we're doing all this, and please, but don't think for a minute I'm preaching at you or really getting at you, but I care about you. We care about everybody at the city, not only staff, but our employees, and that's why we're sharing this information, because it is preventative. And so and the whole thing kind of starts really the day before.
Yes.
You need to think about the day before and prepare the fact that, because I knew before I got home from work yesterday, I knew the day before that I'm going to mow that we're recording this on Friday, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to mow on Thursday night. And so after work on Thursday, I got home and I knew I was going to mow. And that was my plan. And so,
and a lot of people don't do that. Yeah. They think as long as I get up that morning, I start drinking water, I'm going to be fine. That's really not the case. Your body needs time to acclimate inside as much as it's going to help you when you get on the outside.
Yep. Well, we're going to kind of summarize a lot of the things we're dealing with here because we've talked so much about so many heat-related and things like that. So kind of go down the list of all the things that we want to summarize and make sure anybody that joined us late, they pick up on this, because we've got enough time still to talk about these, but I want to make sure we don't overlook what we're talking about here and all the heat-related things.
I think the message that we're trying to convey today is just to listen to your body, pay attention to what, medications you're taking, be prepared, prevent this from happening to you or a family member, understand the different signs and symptoms that lead up to heat stress, exhaustion, or unfortunately heat stroke. Know what to do before you get to that point. And like we said, there's good news because we can prevent it. It's 100% preventable if we're listening and doing these kinds of things and just paying attention to your body.
Well, knowing the signs and symptoms, and then monitoring not only yourself, but your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, and everybody who's maybe outside and all those kind of things. And let's go, you mentioned earlier about your bald spot. I've got one of those too. It's very important to put on sunscreen. And I know you've provided through the city people like some of my TV staff who go out in the sun regularly to do video shoots and things like that. You've provided them with various things to help us with, first of all, mosquito bites, which we can talk about too, but also sunscreen. Talk about sunscreen and the importance of sunscreen.
You know, sunscreen, you can put on sunscreen. If you want to get a little color to your skin or whatever you want to do, you're afraid that you're going to get sunburned or whatever, there's different levels of sunscreen, as we know, that you can put on. Mm-hmm. I put 100 on my bald spot because you don't want it to get cooked. But just be aware, some of us are light-skinned. You know, you need to put a higher level of sunscreen to block out those harmful rays. But, yes, sunscreen and the clothes you wear. You know, if you can work outside in a long sleeve, you know, that helps, you know, to keep the sun off your exposed skin areas. But you have to be aware, too, that the more clothes you wear for the type of work and extreme, you know, the way you're going to exert yourself is going to have a big difference as well.
Very interesting, the fact that just while you're saying that, just on the behind side of the camera that's on right now, I'm looking back, it goes into our control room, and one of our producers is getting ready to go outside, and I said it was okay if he wore shorts today because he's going to be outside. And that's the thing, as his supervisor, I want to make sure he knows he can do that. And I gave him permission, even though it's not within the normal dress code. Mm-hmm. But we allow that. We allow our people who we know are going to be in a hot situation to do whatever's necessary to be able to take care of that. Using a fan in front of you, maybe, if you're able to do that. If you're hot in your office area or at home especially, the fans, you know, a lot of times, if you can't afford one, I'm sure there are areas, a lot of agencies around town that will provide a fan for you to help cool your body. Because back to your body situation, you sweat, you perspire, and what do you want to call it, to cool you.
Right.
And that breeze across you will help combine that moisture and the movement of the air to cool you down. And that's some of the things to do. And drinking a lot of water is very critical. And
I like what you said about what we do for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of education. Every year we educate on heat stress. I know some people say, oh, here we go with the heat message. It's important to continue to remind our employees of that message. You know, we put out heat stress. We got cards that we put out to keep in their trucks. They have the signs and symptoms on it. We make all these things available in our warehouse, you know, posters, like you said, the sunblock, you know, different things like that. So we go to great lengths to make sure that our folks are going to be protected in these heat extremes.
Well, and it's I just want you to know the fact that we as city employees appreciate the fact that, first of all, city management and the city council cares enough about all of us to have you, first of all, the full-time staff member, looking out for safety. You do more than just heat. Obviously, how to climb ladders and how to deal with it, how to minimize the amount of dangers that we get exposed to in our everyday life here at work. And more people besides myself get involved in a situation like that. And that's really what we're at. We got about a minute left. Anything else you want to add just to make sure we've covered everything that our citizens should know?
I think just remembering that 911 needs to be called for heat-related illnesses. If you've reached that point where we need to be at, we have help that can come and respond, and we're so thankful for all of our first responders that do that. They know what to do when they get to you and what you need, and so that's extremely important.
And don't hesitate to call, because it's very critical to know the fact that they're there to serve and they're there to help us all. Barry Barrington with our safety department. He's our safety coordinator for the city of Waco, has been our guest. Barry, I appreciate, as always, everything you do to help us keep safe. And because of that, we have a very low accident rate and a very low loss of productivity for our staff that better serves our citizens. I want to thank you for being there, and thank you for being a part of City Talk. We hope you'll join us again next week for more information about the city of Waco on City Talk. This program is produced by the Municipal Information Department of the City of Waco and is provided as a public service by this station.